I'm Mike Hannewald, field agronomist with Beck's Hybrids, and here to have an update about corn emergence. Now, I realize that the state of Ohio is all over the board as far as planting progress goes, especially down in the south. There's quite a few guys who have a lot of their planting already done, if not finished. But then up in the north, where we're at today, there's majority of fields haven't even been touched yet because of some of the wet weather that we've been experiencing. But thought that it'd be a good time to share some reminders about what to expect as the crop does start to emerge. And for those of us who haven't planted yet, some things that we get to look forward to hopefully over the next few weeks. Now, first thing is expectations of the length of time that it takes for the crop to emerge. So crops, both corn and soybeans, emerge based on the amount of heat that they experience. So it takes 100 to 130 growing degree units to get a corn seed from planting in the soil up until it emerges. And same thing with soybeans, about that 100 to 130 growing degree units. Now, while we've had some warm weather here recently, it can be deceiving of how many growing degree units we're actually accumulating. So for example, on a day where we have a high of 80 degrees and a low of 60 degrees, we're accumulating about 20 growing degree units on a day like that. Now, we've had a lot of days where we've hit 80, but we haven't always had the low at 60, and a lot of times the low has been 50 or below. And so then that reduces your GDUs that you have. And so it's important to just keep in mind some realistic expectations that if your crop seems to be struggling to emerge, it may not be struggling because of anything that's slowing it down other than just the temperature. And so it's a good thing to take some note of calculations of what those GDUs are and know should your crop even be emerged. There's some great tools available that you can see there on your screen. If you simply search Gdus tool, you'll find there's two tools available, one from the University of Nebraska, one from the University of Illinois, where you can plug in your county and it will provide GDU calculations there. Also, Beck's offers the Farm Server tool through, that's our precision farming platform, and we do growth stage modeling and GDU calculations with that tool as well. And so if you're not currently a user of Farm Server, you can talk to your Beck's representative and they'd be happy to help you get set up. The next thing I wanted to address when it comes to emergence is evaluating stands. So if you're in 30-inch row corn, it's 17 feet 5 inches is 1/1000th of an acre. Simply measure that off and count how many plants you have and multiply that by 1,000. Fairly simple. Soybeans, I like to use the same strategy, but then just adjust the number of rows that you count. So in 15-inch beans, you would measure off that same 17 feet 5 inches, but you'd count 2 rows. And if you're in drilled beans, 7.5-inch rows, you would count 4 rows that length. I feel like that's a little bit more of a representative sample than what throwing a hula hoop out there might provide for you, because there's less luck of the draw where it lands. So after you have evaluated your stand, make sure you've got sufficient stand out there. The next thing is to dig up some plants, and I think it gives you a really good report card of how your planting did. And so I've got one here that I want to show. And so this is a corn plant that you can see, and the first thing I like to look at is planting depth. So right here you see is the crown of the plant. That's where the stem narrows down, and that crown of the plant will almost always set at 3/4 of an inch below the soil. And so if we measure from the crown down to the seed, we're looking at about a 1/2 inch there. And so we have 3/4 of an inch below the surface plus that 1/2 inch. So this was planted at about 1.25 inches. So actually pretty on the shallow side. So this would be a situation if we were finding a lot of plants like this, especially if we haven't finished planting yet, we'd want to evaluate our planter depth settings. The other thing is that these young plants can actually tell you quite a bit about the conditions that this plant experienced after planting. So again, from the crown of the plant, you follow that main stem down there. That's the mesocotyl that connects the crown to the seed. And from that mesocotyl, if we continue on and find the root that extends right off of that mesocotyl, this is the radical root. The radical root is the first root to emerge, and the condition, the length, and the number of root hairs on that radical root tell you what this plant experienced, or what that seed experienced from 24 to 48 hours after planting. And you can see here that we have a fairly healthy radical root, plenty of root hairs, good length to it. So this plant had ideal conditions after the seed was put in the ground. Now, all these other roots that come off of the seed, these are the seminal roots. The seminal roots tell you what conditions were like from 2 to 4 days after planting. And so you can see here we've got good length, good numbers of seminal roots, but not a lot of root hairs. So we might not have had perfect conditions during that time. Lastly, we have the nodal roots that you see wrapped here around the crown. Those look healthy and are off to a good start. And so just some interesting things you can look at with the roots that help you evaluate what kind of a job that you did planting. If you have any questions about these or any other agronomic topics, feel free to reach out to your local Beck's representative, and we would be happy to help.